So today, Mother, I wanted to talk to you mostly about the setting in Stormlight. We spent a lot of time with Kaladin and Adolin and all of the royal family and all of them.
So a big chunk of the story takes place on the Shattered Plains, where the main body of the war is happening. So the Shattered Plains is like this big flat area that looks like it's been broken into like these individual plateaus.
It makes fighting the war very interesting because they have stagnant bridges that are permanent, and they have bridge crews, which we did slightly mention with Kaladin. One thing I want to talk about is talking about setting. Of course, everyone knows about time and place, and though this is on the planet of Roshar, however, it does sort of resemble historical time periods.
Yes.
I was thinking kind of medieval time periods.
Yes.
They're a little bit more advanced due to their possession of, like, magic.
So one of the things that makes the Shattered Plains a difficult place to live is because it's not very protected. And this planet has a high storm.
And these high storms, we say high storm and you think, oh, it's like a big thunderstorm. But the way that a high storm works is that it always originates from this land that's far off, and people have tried to journey there, but they've never made it. And there is a giant wall of the storm that comes out, and it is full of lightning and rain and big wind,
and it's kind of like a haboob wall.
Yeah,
crossing
definitely
the desert, and it always comes from the same direction. So if there's like places that there are natural protection from, that's likely where a place of a city or a town would pop up.
One of the characters that we were talking about earlier, Shallan, she was following a woman in an attempt to mentor under her, and the town in which she finally caught her in is a town that is sectioned in a cliffside on a bay, so the cliffs provide protection from the high storms.
Yeah, but to get like more room, their buildings kind of go down into the earth, and the way they were able to do that is with soul casting, which is kind of magic in this world.
However, it is different from the magic that I mentioned the last time that Kaladin has been able to harness by extracting energy from the spheres. Soul casting, it's much more widespread. The magic that Kaladin is performing is virtually unknown. Soul casting, I'm not 100% sure how it works. However, they need to harness a soul caster's ring.
It's not necessarily just a ring, it's like a bracelet and rings. It's like a whole hand jewelry piece.
Which soul casters, they basically change matter into different forms of matter. They perform alchemy. So they're extremely valuable in a war because they can create food out of air. One of the interesting things about Shallan's story, this also relates to another aspect of setting, which is your social status. Shallan's father, who recently passed away, they lived on a plantation, they did mining for marble, and currently her family is keeping his death a secret. After her father died, they found out that he was a soul caster and was actually, when he went someplace to go and try and find new marble, he would actually change a bunch of the stone into marble and then would go mine it. Just enough to keep the mines going.
But when he died, they found the fabrial that he used for soul casting.
However, it was broken. So, Shallan's plan was to go find Yasna and apprentice underneath her, gain her trust, and then swap the fabrials for each other and take the working one back home. So basically, that entire plot point is based around her social status.
So, should we talk about some of the unique adaptations that these plants have received?
I think we should first just kind of go through the different animals that at least I have heard of. So
Okay.
There are the Kremlings, which are sort of small crustacean-like bugs. And Kremling is also kind of an insult for someone who is small and insignificant and annoying. And then there are the Spren, which we mentioned last time with the wind Spren, Syl. They represent sort of different aspects of the world.
But also emotions?
Exactly. So there are wind Spren, and there are also hunger Spren, pain Spren, creative Spren, anger Spren, rot Spren, and river Spren.
Also the plants, which are really cool. The one that pops in my mind the most, the grass.
Oh, yes.
Right? So the grass, to protect itself from these massive winds and stuff, so it is able to pull back into kind of its, like a burrow, or like you could run past it and touch it, and it would pull away. And so, like, as you run, they're pulling away, and then as you get further away, then they're, like, coming back out after you.
Because the high storm always comes from the same direction and follows the same pattern, just wiping across the continent. So the trees actually grow kind of to be bent in that direction.
And they also, their leaves are able to pull in, so that they don't get ripped off with every high storm. Then it's able to
It makes sense
come
why a
out.
lot of the creatures are definitely more crustacean-based, because that's the only way that they can, like, hunker down. Like, the Cho, they have huge shells, kind of similar to hermit crabs, and they will, like, retreat into them and hunker down for a high storm.
From the flying debris that is in a high storm.
And then another thing is the chasm fiends, which are just the giant crabs we talk about. They live inside of, and they burrow and make nests in the shattered plains and the big canyons, so they are safe and protected. Another thing the high storms do, which you mentioned this slightly last time when mentioning the spheres, but I feel like we go into a little bit more depth of the spheres and the currency. So the currency is glass spheres with a gem inside of them, and the gem gets charged by the power of the high storm. Once they have been fueled by Stormlight, they glow. So that's one of the interesting things, is though this is in the medieval period, so they would not have electric lights, they do use candles. Their main source of lighting is spheres, because they're far more consistent, so they still have consistent, relatively LED-like fluorescent lights. The denominations, they have a chip, a mark, and a brome, and that is sort of based off the size. And the also different kinds of gemstones that can be in them, so like a sapphire, ruby, garnet, emerald. Each of those, the light that glows inside of them is the same light as the type of gemstone that is inside of it. So diamond is considered like relatively valuable for light, but not super valuable as far as money goes. I think that one was equal, just the smallest denomination of money, which is relatively funny to us in our universe, because diamond is the hardest and one of the most valuable gemstones in existence.
Okay, so the other magic that's in the universe besides soul casting is the shard plate and the shard blade, and
being able to use investiture, I think it was called.
Yes.
Which is basically what Kaladin was able to do with extracting Stormlight from the spheres. So the magical properties that I've been able to gather from what I have read so far, through the story with Lift and the story with the mystery guy who I can never remember the name of, who killed the king, it can change the gravity of specific objects. You can make it seem like up is down for you or for someone else. He used this when invading the castle because he made the ceiling be up for a man, and then positioned his spear underneath him, and then waited for the Stormlight in him to run out, causing him to fall directly onto the spear, killing him. And then you can also make different parts of your body slippery, and you can choose which parts are slippery. You can heal, and Lift was able to use it to bring one of her friends virtually back from the dead. He had recently died, and it took almost everything out of her to do that. And I'm not 100% sure of what powers Kaladin was using, but just general increased physical ability, I think.
Yeah.
And also he was missed by arrows, which I still haven't figured out what exactly that could be. So then we have the shard blades and shard plates, which are, the method for making them actually has been lost to time. There was an order that used to use them and actually use the powers of investiture. However, that fact has been lost, and all that is left behind is the physical evidence. So they are constantly, there's an Alethi, which is the race of the people who we've mainly been following, all of Kaladin, Shallan, and Dalinar. Basically, there's a tradition among them that if you challenge someone who has a shard-plated blade, and you beat them in battle, you get their shard-plated blade. So in the war, the sides will often, if they kill someone who has a shard plate, they will take it and they will distribute it to their royalty. Another interesting thing, we mentioned the war a few times, and we didn't really mention sort of the context of the war. So this war has been going on for 6 years. There was sort of some tension between the two nations before that. It was the night of the treaty signing, when the assassin in white was paid by, we haven't been sure who yet, to kill the king and make sure he was seen doing it, in order to make it seem like that the Parshendi, who they were going to be signing the treaty with, had assassinated the king, and he succeeded. And so the king's son is now heir, and due to Alethi values of honor, fighting in battle, their religious system believes in a Valhalla-like place, that you either get there by dying in battle or by following your chosen calling faithfully through your entire life. And after this, of course, he immediately had to go fight a war, revenge for his father. One of the another things that I find extremely interesting about Alethi is the difference between male and female in their society. There is a humongous difference. One of the main things being part of their religion is that females, once they get to a certain age, have to keep their safe hand guarded. or protected. They cannot touch anything with it. So they either wear a glove, which by some people is considered far too little, or they wear a specific kind of dress that has a very long sleeve that at the end, they kind of button it closed. And then their left hand is completely covered up. Another thing that is very interesting about the difference between male and females in this society is that there are the manly arts and the womanly arts. This is relatively similar to our society. However, they find reading and writing to be a womanly art. So all the scribes are women, and all the people who know how to read are women. The men will often have the women read things to them, but if a man were ever caught reading or were ever caught, like, writing, that is a shame.